Good morning, everybody. This is really big news, and it dropped last night right after I finished my video. I was like, and today, right after I finished my video, actually, it's probably happened. The court case is probably starting right now. So last night, it started to be leaked that the government was going to drop the charges against Mark Norman. And that's huge. And we're going to look at why that's huge. So here's Dan Albas, and he is an MP for Centre Okanagan. Oh my goodness, I'm not even going to try the rest of all that. And a shadow minister for innovation. And he's tweeting out, the Vice Admiral's legal defense team was after the 60-page memo from Mr. Wernick to Mr. Trudeau, unredacted. And now this. And here's the link to the article that he's linking. And it's National Post reporting, quote, charges being dropped against Mark Norman would be major victory for senior naval officer. Thank goodness as well. Prosecutors are expected to withdraw a criminal charge against Vice Admiral Mark Norman, providing a major victory for the senior naval officer who has always maintained his innocence in advocating for the government to build a Navy supply ship. The announcement, expected Wednesday morning, according to sources with knowledge of the matter, will end the government's 2-year legal battle against the officer and heads off what would have been a politically explosive trial for the Liberal government in the middle of a federal election campaign. Yeah, this was good. This was set to go in August, and they've been kicking this down the road for 2 years because, in my opinion, they had nothing. And we're going to look at the whole history of this investigation and what they did to this man, because what they did to this man is not okay. This is not how you deal with something like this, especially in light of the evidence, and especially in light of what he has done for Canada. He did a service to Canada. He maintained the Navy when nobody else wanted to, because they wanted to kill this project, the davies ship project, and give it to Irving. That's what they wanted to do. But the Conservatives who started this deal wanted to depoliticize the process and to ensure that the deal got done, because they knew they weren't using Irving, which is who you're supposed to use if you're a government employee, because Irving is a big family, well connected, right? They used davies. And so Irving wanted the Liberals to cancel the Davie contract and give it to them. But the Conservatives put an $89 million cost to doing that, to canceling that project. But we're going to get to all of that in just a minute. What they did to this man was terrible, and they should have consequences for that. And I think that Mr. Norman's legal team is probably looking at all of their options. I'm going to scroll down and go back to the article now. Here we go. In pretrial hearings over the last year, defense lawyer Marie Heinen, I'm going to go with Heinen, has been methodically building an argument that the Liberal government had politically interfered in the case and that its officials had ignored subpoenas to disclose documents relevant to the matter. Norman's trial has been set for August and could have seen key Liberal cabinet ministers and officials being cross-examined in court in the run-up to the anticipated October election. In documents filed during the pretrial process, Norman's lawyers took aim at a key cabinet minister, focusing on allegations about Scott Bryson's links to the powerful Irving family, which owns Irving Shipbuilding, and his role in the Liberal government's plan to delay the Davie contract. Bryson, who is retired from politics early, he was elected in 2015, and he said, no, I'm out of here. I've got to spend time with my family. He said that January 15th. Do you know where he was on Valentine's Day? Taking a job with Bank of Montreal. Spending time with his family, right? His banking family. We're family at Bank of Montreal, right? BMO. Okay, Bryson, who's retired from politics, has denied any wrongdoing, and Irving has denied allegations it engaged in any political meddling to undercut its rival shipyard. Well, interesting. We're gonna get to that too. Back to the article. Among other allegations from the pretrial hearings, one witness, Norman's lawyers revealed that his superior, Canadian Forces Brigadier General, told him Norman's name was deliberately not used in internal files, meaning any search conducted for records about Norman would come up empty. Norman's lawyers cited the evidence as an example of how the process was being rigged against their client. Heinen has been working on bringing forward an abusive process motion that would have been argued sometime in late May. That motion would have focused on allegations of political interference and obstruction of subpoenas for documents in an effort to see the case dismissed before it got to trial. Norman's lawyers were also in the midst of fighting against redactions on a series of government documents they believe could be key for his defense, including memos drafted for Prime Minister Justin Trudeau on the case and a flurry of emails sent by Trudeau's senior advisors last fall. That's what the tweet at the beginning alluded to. That's the 60-page document Mr. Warnick wrote. Back to the article. Trudeau had predicted on 2 different occasions that Norman would wind up in court, even though at the time the naval officer had not been charged. We're going to look at those 2 times too. Chief of Defense Staff General John Vance suspended Norman from his job in January 2017 after the RCMP presented him with their allegations. But just months later, a judge raised concerns in court about the strength of the evidence against Norman. In examining the public release of the RCMP's request for a search warrant related to the Norman case, Ontario Superior Court Justice Kevin Phillips wrote in an April 2017 ruling that it was not unusual for the Vice Admiral to be communicating with Davie since the company was involved in the ship project. Yeah, since 2015, well before all of this broke. Anyway, back to the article. The judge specifically noted that none of what Norman did was for financial gain, but was instead to advance the well-being of the Navy and its sailors. Phillips also pointed out that the prosecutors who would have to prove the naval officer was the first in leaky Ottawa to have shared any cabinet confidences or other sensitive information about the matter. At the time, the RCMP had already identified a second suspect, government official Matthew Machette. Sorry if I got that wrong. In February 2019, the RCMP charged Machette with 1 count of breach of trust. He has pled not guilty. In addition, a former defense lobbyist told Post Media that details of the 2015 cabinet meeting were already known by a number of well-connected individuals in Ottawa. I scroll down a little bit. Norman has faced mounting legal costs because of the lengthy battle to gain access to documents. He originally requested financial assistance from a special government fund that covers legal fees for federal employees, but the Department of National Defense declined that request, claiming Norman had already been found guilty of disclosing confidential information. Interesting, no trial. Back to the article. The determination of guilt was made by a small group of bureaucrats. They did not conduct any investigation, and DND has declined to say how it arrived at this determination of guilt. Meanwhile, the supply ship that Norman fought for, the Asterix, has been operating for more than a year, refueling Royal Canadian Navy ships around the world. The conversation of the Asterix is a rare example of a defense project that was delivered on time and on budget. Military officers say, so Norman's a good guy, and he delivered his project on time and was working for the betterment of Canada and his soldiers, and take him to court. He couldn't possibly have done that above board. What? Anyway, here's Pierre Poilievre, tweeting, quote, February 2018, Trudeau announces Norman going to court. March 2018, Norman charged. How did the Prime Minister know charges were coming if the RCMP is independent of him? Indeed. And it goes back even further. This is from 2017, April 26, 2017. Listen to the language used in this report. They are judge, jury, and career executioner in this. Here we go. We're going to listen to there's a minute and 42. We're going to listen to all of it.
We have newly unsealed court documents tonight that reveal why Canada's second highest military commander was removed from his role. The RCMP alleged Vice Admiral Mark Norman leaked top secret information to a shipping executive in the hopes of putting pressure on the Trudeau government to buy new Navy ships. Shirley Engel has been poring over those documents to find out why this commander was let go. Shirley?
Donna, the RCMP alleged Vice Admiral Mark Norman leaked cabinet secrets to Quebec shipbuilding executive Spencer Fraser on an ongoing basis and coached him to use the media to pressure the Trudeau government to let his company build an interim supply ship for the Navy. A heavily redacted version of the affidavit was released earlier this month, but the media fought for the public's right to know more. The documents pull back the curtain on the drama behind the scenes after the newly elected Liberals decided to delay the $700 million contract for Fraser's company to build the supply vessel. 2 other companies were lobbying to do it for less money. The RCMP alleges Norman was opposed to the delay in the supply ship process proposed by Cabinet and leaked the information, subject to Cabinet confidence, in order to achieve the result he wanted personally, which goes against the public good and constitutes a breach of trust.
Everything that he has done is contrary to what his professional responsibility is and what his military ethics say he should be doing.
Norman was booted from his job in January. Remember, Donna, in Canada, it's a crime to leak cabinet secrets. Norman, though, has not been charged, and none of these allegations have been proven in court.
Right. Interesting to use such language, booted from his job, and everything he's done is against his, what he's supposed to do as a military procurement officer who's supposed to make sure the Navy is supplied. Interesting. And I wanted to show you this. This is a Maclean's article. This is April 26, 2017, so this is all part of the same leak here, talking about Scott Bryson and how much there was a poison pill. I'll just read the last 3 paragraphs here. The important ones are the last one, but I'll just give some context here. So that included, in Smith's words, trying to, quote, put pressure on Bryson, whose department holds the government's purse strings. Personal emails leaked to several media outlets this month indicate Norman was extremely frustrated in November about why the government and bureaucracy were handling the project. Norman, who was head of the Royal Canadian Navy at the time, even talked about resigning over the issue, but instead stayed on and took over as Vice Chief of Defense Staff in August 2016. The Liberals ultimately decided to leave the shipbuilding project with Davie after it was revealed that the government would have to pay the shipyard $89 million if it was cancelled. Okay, so a lot of the way they're saying this went down in this article is in this video, very editorialized. And this is better, but still leaves a lot of the details out. I did a 2-part video way back when it was happening. This was my New Year's Eve video. It was crazy. And it was in 2 parts. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But there was so much that I had to break it up into 2 videos, and the videos are long, like 20 minutes each. So there's a lot that is backstory that goes into this. You can read the emails for yourself. The National Post actually had a good timeline, and the link is in the description. So the link to this video is in the description if you want to go really deep on the Mark Norman stuff. But essentially, they're trying to destroy his career. And Trudeau said in 2017, this is probably, he's probably going to go to trial. And then in 2018 said it again before he was arrested. Before he was formally charged by the RCMP. That happened in March. We'll look at that in just a second. But here's the CBC reporting in February 2018. Quote, Trudeau says case against suspended Vice Admiral will inevitably go to court. How did he know? Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says the police investigation into Vice Admiral Mark Norman will inevitably lead to court processes, even though the military's second highest ranking officer had not yet been charged with any crime. The Prime Minister made the comments at one of the Prime Minister's town hall meetings in Edmonton on Thursday after one audience member characterized the year-long RCMP investigation of Norman as a witch hunt. Norman was suspended from his position as the Vice Chief of Defense Staff in January 2017, but has not been charged with any crime, and Norman's lawyer has denied her client did anything wrong. Trudeau did not elaborate on why he believes the case will end up in court, despite the RCMP having yet to lay charges, but he did say the protection of cabinet secrets is extremely important. The Prime Minister also predicted that last April that Norman's case would end up in court, leading to accusations from the official opposition Conservatives of political interference in the case. Yeah, and here's the March 9th charges laid. CBC reporting, quote, Mounties charge Vice Admiral Mark Norman with breach of trust. And RCMP have laid a single charge of breach of trust against the country's second highest military commander. CBC News has confirmed. The charge against Vice Admiral Mark Norman was laid Friday in an Ottawa court. He is scheduled to appear before a judge April 10th. News of the charge comes just weeks after a senior federal prosecutor in Halifax was put in charge of the case, say several sources with knowledge of the file. So the link is in the description if you want to read more. And it's interesting that the case is dropped. I mean, from all indications, I don't have confirmation yet. The hearing is probably in process, and maybe it's all across the news while I'm doing it now. But it doesn't matter. Fundamentally, it's been leaked that Trudeau's backing down. He's going to drop the charges, but that doesn't undo the damage, right? The government refused to pay the legal costs. This man has had to mortgage his house, and he's got a GoFundMe page with a $500,000 goal to cover the legal costs, so that the house mortgaging is, unmortgaged. The 25 years he spent paying off the mortgage isn't in vain and all that. So that would be very concerning if you did nothing wrong and your job, the leadership changed, and all of a sudden you've got a $500,000 legal bill and no help to pay it. It's concerning, to say the least, that can happen. I think I'm going to leave the video here today, as this is about as long as I usually go. I was going to do one more little one, but I'll add it in the afternoon video. Fundamentally, I think the whole 2 years with this battle and Trudeau foreshadowing the charges and the clear pressure that Wernick, the PMO, the Privy Council, all of those people put on Jody Wilson-Raybould, I think it's one of those things where you can infer a lot from the knowledge that we have, the testimony of Jody Wilson-Raybould, and even the testimony of Gerald Butts, the former principal secretary, and Wernick, the former Privy Council clerk. all of those testimony can inform what really happened here, because those people had no problem crossing lines. They jumped over the line and then called you racist if you pointed it out to them. Said, oh, well, we don't understand how the law works. Is that where we're not allowed to say that? Oh, sorry about that. And I don't even think they said sorry about that. They said, is there anything you can do? Which is not great. Not great. And I think that's understating it, right? Rule of law is supposed to be one rule of law for everyone in Canada, whether you're a prime minister or an 18-year-old fresh adult out of school, high school, into a trade or whatever you're doing at 18 years old, internet entrepreneur, whatever, it doesn't matter. Point is, the law should apply to you the same way it applies to the prime minister, the same way it applies to everybody else. Equality under the law, right? Anyway, I'm getting off topic. It's frustrating to watch this miscarriage of justice play out. And I wonder if Mr. Norman will be made whole, and I wonder how much that will cost financially Canada and politically Trudeau. I hope it costs Trudeau a lot, and I hope Canada makes this man whole. I hope we can, because 2 years of being in limbo because Trudeau was on a power trip. Terrible. What a poor way to run a government. What a poor way to treat a man who delivered what he was supposed to deliver, and to maintain the effectiveness and ability of our Canadian Navy. Without that ship, we're Coast Guard. If you can't get supplied in the field, in the water, in the ocean, that means you have to come back to shore to get supplied. You're not a Navy, right? You can't defend anything, because it's like, oh, hold on, we're just going to go back to port and we're going to get everything we need and we'll come back. It doesn't work. This person, Mark Norman, made sure our Navy continued to function despite the political headwinds, and to great personal cost, both financial personal cost. And man, if this has ever happened to you, you know that it's not easy. Your family suffers, you personally suffer. This is what an awful thing to do to somebody. Awful. And that's our government. Trudeau should be held responsible and should pay a heavy, heavy cost at the polls in October. Check out the People's Party of Canada.ca. Have a wonderful day. Thanks for watching, everybody. And yeah, that's about it.